Welcome to Boulder. Good to see y'all. Thanks for coming. Thanks to GDevCon. Round of applause for these guys. Also, I didn't follow instructions, so in lieu of giants or females, why don't we recognize all the females in the room and have them stand up and give them a round of applause too? Yeah? And I wanted to do one introduction. I brought a customer with me who's new to the community, and I wanted you to all be aware of him so you could go up and say hi. His name is Igor. It looks like Igor, I-G-O-R. Why don't you stand up, Igor? So this is his first conference, I think, with the LabVIEW group. So make sure you go up and say hi to Igor. All right, and finally, let's get started. I'm John. John Giannangeli, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Nancy and Brian because they're the ones that got me hooked on LabVIEW way back in 1993. And I started using TestStand right after that. It wasn't even a product at the time. It was a toolkit add-on for LabVIEW. So that's what I've been doing since then. My presentation is on SystemLink. I just started using this, CLA, CPI, etc. So we're going to talk about deploying systems with SystemLink for LabVIEW and TestStand. This is my rough abstract. The problem statement is kind of, you have these huge files to deliver, 1 gigabyte-ish type of things. And it just becomes kind of a pain to, put it on an FTP site or show up with your removable drive or what have you. So we're going to try to solve that problem. Here's my rough overview. How many people are using TestStand? So not a lot. I'm going to go through those slides fast because there's not too many people here. So we're going to cover the traditional deployment strategies and then sort of the new strategy, I guess. The actual delivery, what the SystemLink server looks like, what the SystemLink client looks like, some security stuff, not really in depth. If I have time, I got 42 slides. If I have time, the bonus topic is going to be replicating development environments. So, Real Housewives of Boulder says, I'm tired of delivering giant 1 gigabyte files, and the cat says, try SystemLink. So the traditional way is build your executable. By the way, this is rudimentary for this advanced group. A lot of these slides are rudimentary, so I'm going to go through some of them pretty quick. Build the executable, build the installer, get it to your customer somehow. FTP, removable drive. You're definitely not emailing that big of a file. This is NI's definition of what is SystemLink. I'm not going to redefine it. This is right off the NI website, including the graphic. So I'll let you take just a minute to read that. So it's a way to link systems and people. Here's where we would start with our LabVIEW deployment. We would make a build spec for the executable. We've all seen this a million times. I'm not going to go through all the tabs. You know how to do that. Then you're going to build an installer. The key takeaway on this slide is you're going to add all these additional installers, and it's going to make your installer really big. Depending, and if you add all of them, it's as big as it's going to get. Here's the sizes on disk. The XE, the XE's 7.25 meg, the zipped installer 1.2 gig. Kind of a problem to deliver. And as you start to build versions, 2.01, 3.01, etc., you accumulate these builds, put them on your FTP server. I don't check in builds into Git. I just archive them as zips. So to summarize that process, you have these inputs of exes and installers, and you get out this large file. Is it cocktail hour yet? Because this is starting to look like a martini glass. The test stand slide has two martini glasses. Okay, so that was the traditional LabVIEW strategy. You guys have all done that a million times. In TestStand, we went to at NI Week, we went to a TestStand track one year, and we kind of learned this different way of doing it, where we're going to build a large core deployment that only has the runtime stuff. And then our client sequence, we were going to build, we were going to, you know, it was going to be a higher velocity of commits and changes that we would, you know, deliver versions with. And we wanted that to be small. So we ended up doing 2 deployments where we can have this one core thing that we give them once, and then we update their client sequences periodically. So this strategy is a little different. You always build from a TestStand workspace. This is the workspace for the core, which includes all the runtime, the operator interfaces that NI has precompiled for you for the simple and the full-featured. And then the TestStand deployment utility. This thing has been a beast over the years, and it's really improved. But in this case, we're selecting an MSI-based installer. And we're going to get the same result as we get in LabVIEW, a giant zipped thing that we have to deliver. I'm not going to go through all the tabs on this, especially because there's not a huge TestStand audience here, and it's really complicated. So the output of that is your core with all the runtime stuff is still big. We'll just call it a gig-ish. That one's 700 and some meg. But look at our client sequence now is only 10 meg. So now I can email that to my customer, do a bug fix, send him an update. His core is already installed. And I suspect that a lot of you guys are already doing that in LabVIEW as well. I personally don't, but rather than just making a giant gigabyte installer, you're probably deploying pieces. Now you have 2 martini glasses for TestStand. So you got the one giant core and the smaller client. There's your 2 traditional deployment strategies. Kind of cumbersome. Got to set up your FTP server, provide all that stuff. So the new strategy is eventually packages became a build spec in LabVIEW. I don't know what year that was. 2019? Sounds about right. So now we can build a package. So we're going to do that instead of building an installer. We have, I'm going to go back a couple slides. In the traditional strategy, we have additional installers for the MSI installer. In the new strategy, we have dependencies instead of additional installers. So it's still the same idea. If you want to have 488.2 or NI Visa, you know, whatever you want to add as a dependency. And then what's really cool is now there's a feed section, a feed category, and you can see that I have a feed named my customer name -project and my systemlink.bouldersoftware.com. And I have to put in a username and password, so I have to have permissions on that server. And I'll get to that in a bit. But now I can build my LabVIEW package right to my SystemLink server, right to the feed. You with me? And the size is the executable 7 meg, the package is 7 meg. So all that stuff is not bloated and carried along with it because we're going to get it from other feeds. That was LabVIEW. This is the TestStand version. You can see that TestStand has a package build as well. There's a weird little issue that NI had here prior to 2019, and that was grayed out unless you were using 64-bit TestStand. So you could still build 32-bit software under 64-bit TestStand and deliver things that had already been compiled under 32-bit as part of that package, but it wasn't available unless you had 64-bit TestStand installed. Now it works. You can do it on 32-bit TestStand since 2019, I believe. And there's the package size of that, 6 meg. So I can email this. I don't need an FTP server. I don't need to put it on a removable drive. It's pretty easy to deliver. What's really cool about it is I don't even need SystemLink. I can just have my customer install Package Manager and send them this package. When I've tested it, it seemed to work, but I think my system may have had cached feeds in it. So I need to go back and retest that and make sure that you don't need to add all the feeds to Package Manager. But in the end, it did work. And so if you don't want to use SystemLink and you're not interested in it, you can still use this strategy. The difference is the delivery is they have to install Package Manager and you have to send it to them. Whereas with the other delivery, you just build it right to the feed. TestStand is very similar. The bottom two boxes are kind of important. One cool thing I can do in SystemLink is I can remotely install my customer's software if they have SystemLink client on it. So I can just say install it, on those 10 machines. If you're doing it the Package Manager style, you kind of have to do it. You have to get the package and install it. So this is the first dashboard that you're going to see. And this is called the Systems Manager. You can make lots of dashboards in SystemLink, and I haven't really begun to explore that yet. I'm getting to it, but it's not part of this presentation. So you're gonna get to SystemLink and you're gonna see this dashboard. You see that I have 20 systems under management right now, and I'm gonna show you what that looks like. There's some basic information on here, CPU usage and memory and et cetera. It's just the default dashboard that you get. Pending systems that are waiting to get approved as SystemLink clients will show up in that. And these are all hyperlinked, so when you click on that 0, that's where you'll go. So now now I want to add all these clients to my SystemLink server. So before you go and start installing SystemLink clients on all your machines, you have to have a server set up, ready to go. That's also not part of this presentation. NI has plenty of documentation on how to do that. But you gotta start with a workspace. So for consultants who have lots of customers, you're going to want to make lots of workspaces. If you're working internally with, just your group or whatever, you'll probably have fewer, but you might still have multiple. It's kind of like namespacing almost. You're going to want to make as many workspaces as you need to accommodate all your internal and external customers. After you have a workspace, users have to be able to, access it. So in this case, I've added Sam as one of my users, and my other customers are also in this workspace and me. So we belong to, I don't know which workspace this is because it's not highlighted, but it's one of them. And so now I can sort of group people together that they can only work on certain systems. Notice there's an interesting bug, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm using LDAP users. You can use Windows users, and you can use NI web server users. So, and I'll show you that tab in a minute as well. We do everything on LDAP at Boulder Software. All of our tools are one password, one login, gets to Git, issue tracker, SystemLink, whatever. Okay, so I have a workspace, I have users. Now I need package repositories. So you start to build your packages and you put them somewhere. So you know, I do mine by customer and project. And same for you. If you just have internal customers, you might have, group A or group B, or however you want to do it. This is inside of one of those package repositories. And what I've done is I've added this build for gas test system. This is a LabVIEW project. And you can see that there's a bunch of other stuff in here. Like it's probably small text for those of you in the back, but it's like the end user license agreement package from NI and stuff like that. So what I've done is I've gone and added all of the dependent packages to this workspace. And the reason I've done that is because if you have a lot of clients, let's say you have 200 clients, for that 200 client machines, SystemLink client machines for that workspace, well, you don't want to go and do that 200 times. So just do it once in the package repository. And then all of those systems will inherit from that package repository. So that's why that list is really huge. And you kind of do that by trial and error. You build it or you try to deploy it and it says, you're missing 488.2. So you go and add 488.2. You're missing NI Visa. So you go add NI Visa. Eventually it builds and deploys. This is a list of all the systems that I'm managing. So the dashboard showed 20. This is just a list version of those 20 systems. And I have them grouped. There's also groups in SystemLink, and you don't have to use them. I use them to group by workspace. So I group everything by customer, project. And if I get to my bonus slides at the end, I also have development workspaces for developers. Now we're ready to connect a client to this server. Those slides showed that I already had some connected, but we're going to actually connect one. So you download the SystemLink client from NI. It's small, 6-7 megabytes. You can email that to your customer. They can go create an NI login and get it themselves. It's really easy to get. You install it. It installs Package Manager. It probably reboots the machine. And the only thing you have to do when it comes up is put in your host names. And you can have failover hosts there. The reason I like this is I've been working with a customer lately who he struggles to understand the difference between like my documents and public documents or desktop. By the way, it's not Eager. It's another customer. It's a guy who's kind of computer challenged. He's a chemical engineer, but he was installing things and he was putting things in weird places and things just weren't working right. So now I send him this SystemLink client and I say, just put in systemlink.bouldersoftware.com and I'll approve it and I'll install the software remotely for you. So he puts in this link. It comes back and it says not approved, meaning it connected, but the administrator on the server side hasn't approved it yet. So I'll go and approve the system, and if I give Sam admin privileges, he can go approve it. And any user that has privileges can do this stuff. So it says not approved, and then when I approve it, it finally says connected. So that's it. SystemLink is installed, it's connected to the server, and it's ready to download packages from feeds. This is a bit of a sidebar, but it's worth noting because this is the only code slide I'm going to show you. I don't have any live demos until the very end. We might do a little. This is more about systems than code, but it's noteworthy. There's a package called NIPM API, NI Package Manager API, and you get it from VI Package Manager, and basically it says, what is the feed I'm looking for, or what is the package I'm looking for, and does it have a new version? Can I upgrade? And so then you just dialogue and say, hey, there's a new version. Do you want it? Yes, no. If you say yes, I actually reboot the box with NI System Configuration VI. The reason I do that is I spent a lot of time trying to get it to work without rebooting the box. I hate rebooting things. I'm kind of I worked at Sun Micro a long time, so I'm really into Unix and Linux, and you don't have to reboot as much on that. You just restart services, and Windows is always wanting to reboot. So I never did figure it out. I'll go back and work on it, but for now I just reboot the box. Just makes it easier. Comes back up, and you have the new version. So my customer, when he wants new software, he doesn't have to do anything. He launches it, he runs it and says, there's a new version. You want it? Yep, I want it. Reboot, I got it. It's done. So what about security? The NI web server configuration has all these tabs, and you can see the authentication and the HTTPS are going to be the main ones. So those are the two tabs. I know the text is really small for those of you in the back. I'm sorry. The left tab is the authentication tab, and it has these tick boxes for, do you want to use users controlled by the NI web server? Do you want to use Windows accounts, or do you want to use LDAP? Again, we use LDAP at Boulder Software. We do everything that way. And then on the other tab, you have to install, you don't have to, you can install a certificate for HTTPS. You can run SystemLink unsecure. I don't. You probably shouldn't. And you can do self-signed certificates. I sell certificates. I buy them for myself. If you guys need to buy a certificate, let me know. I'll help you out. So that's all the security stuff I'm going to cover. But basically, what it is HTTPS, and you can barely see it down here, but LDAP-S. So LDAP-S is secure LDAP. It's LDAP in and of itself is not secure. It can be snooped. So I've been going through a security audit with one of my customers because it's a big government job, and they've been auditing me for like 3 months, and I didn't have this quite working, and I just got it working a couple months ago. So I'm glad I finally got it to work. But you don't have to use LDAP. You can use Windows users, etc., like I mentioned. If you're curious about LDAP, what it means, what it is, there's the wiki for it. You might even be using it at your employer. The bug that I ran into with NI, so I spent several months with NI working through some LDAP bugs, and I just couldn't get it to work. I'm going to go back to something. You can see that I added Sam as an LDAP user. But there's a drop down here that says LDAP group, and that group might be NI or, whatever. I could not get that to work for the life of me, and the bug was open with NI for about 6 months, and the support ticket, and we never got it resolved. And I finally figured out why, and that is LDAP has a lot of different flavors. And Microsoft's flavor is called Active Directory, and that's what a lot of people use. I don't. I use OpenLDAP because I'm a Linux guy. Active Directory is probably going to run on a Windows server. At any rate, there's your wiki for LDAP if you're curious about it. But just know that if you're not using Microsoft Active Directory, you might run into some issues. I worked around them by not using group. I just use user, so I have to discretely add each user. So what do I end up with? A server with a bunch of workspaces with a bunch of clients. But this workspace can't see those clients, so I can have employees and subcontractors and customers have specific access to specific things and not access to anything else. So I can segregate all my customers and subcontractors and employees. Okay, well, I guess we did make it through. Let's see what time it is. I thought that was going to go a lot longer.
Yeah, 25 minutes.
Okay, good. So that is, and I'm going to fire up SystemLink and show you some more, but that is the bulk of my presentation about deploying things with SystemLink. The rest of it is, I had an idea, and I did this. I've been working on this presentation for, I don't know, about a month or so, maybe a little bit more. And right in the middle of it, I got sidetracked and I thought, I wonder if I can use this to deploy development systems, not compiled runtime stuff. So the traditional way of doing that is you build a virtual machine. If you're a virtual machine person, which I am, I've got a farm of virtual machines. And so every time I start a new customer, a new project, I start a new virtual machine. Because I'm not one of these guys that I install the entire toolkit on every virtual machine. It gets really bloated and really big. A bare bones Windows virtual machine with nothing on it is about 20 gig. Once you add LabVIEW and TestStand and some toolkits, you're into 30 gig, maybe 40. If you start adding FPGA toolkit and every other toolkit, you're into 120 gig. So you're making virtual machines that are 200 gigs, so you got some room to spare. I like to make everything tight and small and only put on what I need. It's kind of like the same idea with unreachable code, right? It's like, why do you have all this code that you're never going to run? So I only install the toolkits I need. And I'm going to give you an example of why it failed one time when we were building something. So I thought, well, why can't I just build my own packages to get my development environments replicated so everybody has exactly the same environment? Sam and I were working on a TestStand project. I've been doing TestStand a long time. I was trying to teach Sam, the basics of deploying TestStand. It's not, the first time you do it, it's really weird. And I wanted to show him the bolder software way of doing it with the big core deployment and the small deployment. And Sam's virtual machine wouldn't build. And we just couldn't figure it out. And we finally started looking at what we had installed, and his dev environment was not like mine. So we had to reinstall it. It was kind of a pain. You know how long it takes to redo your whole virtual machine. So one traditional way of doing that is just build your virtual machine and give it to Sam. Well, that's 30 gigabytes of stuff. So put it on an FTP site, put it on a removable drive, whatever. I thought, well, that's fine, and that's what I've been doing for years. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool for me to give Sam a 6 megabyte package that installs LabVIEW, TestStand, 488.2, like basically the installer that you download from NI. So not only does he get the dev environment, not only does he get the repos that he needs for this, but he gets the installer exactly the way I have it. And it kind of works. I'm almost done getting this to work. So one of the things we learned at Boulder Software along the way, and Chris, my former partner, was part of this. We just started realizing, when we build dev environments, we need a lot of stuff from a lot of different repos. And it's really hard to manage. So this is an example of, I've got a project, I've got some instruments in instrument lib, we need TestStand config, we need TestStand components, we might need some things in user lib. And I keep all of these things in repositories. Like if there's 17 instruments in there, that's 17 repositories. So I started writing batch files to check it all out. It just became really hard to manage. I even tried using Subversion externals. I tried using symbolic links. And they don't behave as well on Windows as they do on Linux. So I've been trying to figure out this problem of how do I check out 17 repos onto a dev machine easily so that each developer can just work. I mean, the task is let's get to work, So now I'm building packages to do this. And it's kind of weird. And you're probably gonna think, well, that's gonna break or whatever. And I'm gonna show you some weird things about it. So got to get all these repos on a dev environment. So we're going to take NI package builder and we're going to put all of these things into the inputs and we're going to tell them where they're going to go on the disk. Again, we're in dev machines now, not deployment machines. Well, the Git repo is inside of here for TestStand config, the instrument lib instruments. So you're literally going to get the Git clone with this package. And when I was showing this to Sam, he's like, well, that's going to be different than whatever's in the Git root now. It's going to be whatever you built that package as. It's like, yeah, this isn't for checkouts. This is for baselining, provisioning a development machine. You do it once, and then your Git repos are all there, and you just fetch them or pull them. And then you're the same as my dev environment. So I built this package, and it's not small. It's about 60 meg, but it's not 30 gig. And I've replicated a bunch of dev environments this way, and it works. Now, there's parts of it that I haven't automated yet. Part of that is VI Package Manager, because you probably would have to build a VI package along with that package and deploy that. So it gets a little complex, but you've basically killed a couple of birds with one stone. You've built a package that makes sure that your other developer's dev environment has exactly the same things you do because they're in the dependencies, and you've given them all the Git repositories they need to co-develop. How do I get those? If you go into program data on your installed on your dev machine that you're trying to replicate, you'll see this file called nipackage.ini buried down in the program data folder, and it has all these URLs in it. So I just wrote some code and the only part you need is the URL or the URI. I wrote, a simple little text parsing thing that just strips those out. And now I cut and paste those into my SystemLink server as feeds, and I can give that package to any developer and onboard them onto a project very quickly. The way you would normally probably do this is you would go build your own virtual machine. You'd run through the installer. You'd say, I want this database toolkit, and I want 488.2, and you'd probably not install it the same way I did. There's so many checkboxes in those installers. I mean, every time you do it, you might do it different. So not only is this giving you all the repositories, it's making your dev install repeatable, right? And it occurred to me, like, why hasn't NI done this? And NI actually has done this. I just don't use it. NI has a command line, like a silent installer. Does anybody use that? What do you think about that, Norm? Does that work well, or?
I mean, it's varied over the years, but I mean, it's not any kind of magic science that was created in terms of the silent installer. It's basically, from my understanding, basically what I used to do when I was working like at TI, even before I was at NI, it was basically make a batch file, call the things, silent install, and you just kind of, so we're not necessarily making something easy for you, but it's not some magic secret sauce as far as I know. But that was I mean, even for pushing development environments, when I used to help do this to the labs at TI for about 102 computers or something like that, I was using sysinternal's command ps exec, which is basically run executable on somebody else's computer kind of thing, right? And it was basically, here's a batch file, here's a thing, and
Yeah.
and it would go and do the stuff, silent install, and that it was less elegant than this, but it was lighter weight tools, and yeah, I mean, it really did fit the bill for a lot of stuff. So I don't know if that's exactly what you were thinking about or not.
Yeah, no, that was it. I've never used it. I didn't see any hands go up, except for yours. But how many people have experienced this problem where you're co-developing with 2, 3, 4 other people, and you can't, something's not right, and
Yeah, recently, maybe in the last couple of years, we have an IT department, and they cook up these images for imaging the hard drive using a Pixie boot. And so they can install a bunch of software. They can format the disk for whatever model of machine you have, Dell, whatever the heck it is. But there's a particular problem with putting on all the LabVIEW or all the NI stuff. And there's like multiple people, 2 or 3 maybe, they said they've spent a lot of time, like a month or something, trying to figure out how to automate this thing to lay down all the NI drivers and dev environments. And there's something about, I don't know if it's changed recently in the last couple of years, but there was something about it that was just, they just threw up their hands and said, you guys just install all the NI stuff, manually.
So it has changed in the last couple of years, and I've always been really methodical about using the shipped distribution, which used to be a stack of DVDs, and then it became a USB drive. And I think the difference Sam and I had is we were using like Service Pack 1 versus not Service Pack 1 or something like that. I've started using the NI package manager. Actually, I started using there's an installer that's an EXE that's very lightweight, and it installs NI package manager. And you still go through all the tick boxes like I want this database toolkit or whatever. I've kind of gravitated away from the shipped distributions, although I did just finally get my spring one about last week, spring of 2021, which was kind of late, it seemed like. I'm still waiting for fall of 2021. Anyway, that works really well, but it's the same problem. It's like if 2 different people do it, they're going to have probably 2 different dev environments, sort of. I mean, Brian?
So related to that, and sorry if you covered this in the first half of the presentation because I was talking to Eric Reff at his ear off. So, what about like uninstalling? Like if you've got the wrong version of something, you really need to get that uninstalled and then get the right version installed. And so is that also covered here?
Yeah, let's check that out. I'm glad you asked. So that is all my slides. I'm actually amazed I got through it because when I ran through it with Sam the other day, it took an hour and a half. But that's because he wouldn't stop.
I asked a lot of questions, which is why
So
I'm not asking.
I'd
any
get out
now.
like 2 words and he'd get out like 3 sentences. So, So here, this is live. So everything before this was slides. Oh, sorry, something's wrong. I don't know what happened, sorry.
I probably got disconnected because when it disconnects, it pulled out and put it back in and see what happens.
Yeah,
Because when you disconnect it, it remembers whatever the
I-
last thing was.
I didn't disconnect, but
Maybe try Control P. There we go.
huh. There you go. Maybe.
You got it?
Maybe. There you go. So that was my PowerPoint presentation. This is actually just a browser browsing to my SystemLink server. So now we're live, and when you come into SystemLink, you're going to get this this interface, and then when you click on, I have two tabs right now. When you click on Systems Manager, you will get this, and this is the default dashboard. So now we can click into Manage Systems, and let's find one that's on. That's not one of my customers. That's one of mine. So we're going to sort this by connected machines. So I have 8 connected machines. Let's go look at this this first one, OCM. No, let's not. Sorry, I'm going to look at something else. NGLC SL1. So this is a next generation liquid particle counter is what this system is, and and that's why it's called NGLC. And what I have installed on it right now is NGLC. Come on. Sorry. NGLC 2.4.0.1. You can see that. And you can see the uninstall button right there. So I can uninstall that product. You can see all the other stuff I have installed here too. Right?
What's the drop down do next to the uninstall?
So it shows 2.4.0 and uninstall. Let's go look at a system. Sorry, I'm going to try a different one. Oh yeah, available. No, that's not it. Yeah, you can go back to exactly. Or if you're at earlier, update to a newer, or uninstall. Sorry, this machine doesn't have, this particular client only has that one package on it. I could find a different one. But you can also see that I can uninstall a bunch of other stuff that's NI add-ons, and they're not really, I'm sorry, there's a setting on here to see more than just the high level ones, like you can see all the hidden ones. You can really shoot yourself in the, sorry, I don't know why this keeps doing that. You can really shoot yourself in the foot by uninstalling the wrong thing here to where your SystemLink client is now disconnected. It won't let you uninstall SystemLink client itself, but there's other things that I think it depends. I've shot myself in the foot. Long story short, I'm like, oh, my system's gone, and then you got to reinstall it. But so that's the long answer to your question. The short answer is yes, I can uninstall stuff remotely off Sam's dev machine, right? And I can give him the right stuff.
And kind of what I'm shopping around for is something like Ansible, which is like, I want the machine configured this way, with this version of Apache, this version of, MySQL, this version of everything, so that I know it's basically infrastructure as code. I want to write the code for what I want on that machine, and then Ansible goes and takes care of that for me. And so it's kind of what I'm looking for from, let me write the code for SystemLink to get it to do what I want it to do for these individual systems.
Yeah. So this isn't really a SystemLink issue at this point. It's a package builder issue, NI package builder. And so I hadn't quite solved all of that yet. Like I mentioned that VIPM, like if I say put VIPM on that developer's machine, well, you still got to go into VIPM and install all the VIPM packages you want.
I had a thought about that earlier and I didn't say anything, but could you not just grab all of VILib and throw it in there just like you threw in all your repositories?
Yeah.
It's a little hacky,
that
but
seems
it would
messy.
probably work.
That seems messy to me. I don't know that I would do that, but I think your other suggestion was better, which is build a VIPC, like a what is it, a VI package manager configuration file?
Yes.
Yeah. And just include that in your package. And then copy your NIMAX data
Yep.
and include that so you can import into NIMAX.
So before I give it to Steven, one more thing back to Brian's point, though. Maybe there's room for a tool that wraps around NI Package Manager, and you somehow list these are all the packages I want in a text file or something, and you run this tool and it does it. So that's an interesting idea.
So I like SystemLink and everything for deploying things that are packages, but you were talking about using it to deploy Git repos and
Yeah.
eventually do the Git clone. Have you used Git submodule?
No.
So it was extremely effective at Blue Origin, where we were running large numbers of repos there. And I've used it successfully in some other contexts as well. I'd encourage you to look at it because what it allows is your main repo, it declares its subrepos, and any Git clone of the original, it lays down the directories, and then they're just fully available as subrepos.
You know, I have looked into that in Subversion with Subversion externals, but I believe the way that works is they're subfolders of that repo. They can't go to like instrument lib or TestStand config, right? They can't be spread out on the disk. Right. My problem is I need all these repos not in one folder, but like all over the place, you know?
And you're still developing those even though they're scattered?
If the instrument driver is stable, no. But I put it in a repo anyway because some of the instrument drivers we've written are custom for a customer. They're not on IDNet. So if you guys know about IDNet, it's the NI instrument driver network. If they don't exist there, where do they exist? Right? They got to be somewhere for my developers to get to them. I mean, I've found drivers on university websites, right? But I'll grab those and I'll stick them in a Git repo, and then I'll give my developer the URLs to that. And now I just stumbled across this literally a couple weeks ago. I wasn't even sure it was going to work, but I experimented with it and it seems to work. What you have to remember, it's not for it's for a provision. It's a baseline provisioning of your development machine. You do it once, and then after that, you just use the Git repos. And if you're going to upgrade from LabVIEW 2020 to 2021, you probably want to rebuild that package. You probably want everybody's commits to be updated and rebuild an update package and then give that to everybody. So it's a very low frequency operation. It's not something you're going to do all the time. Let's see what else. So we haven't really looked around too much at SystemLink, but I've shown you this dashboard, and then there's the package repository section where you just go and add packages inside of each of these. There's a whole bunch of other stuff here I haven't explored. Web VIs. Sorry, this thing just keeps flaking out. Web VIs, alarms. Apparently, there's a bunch of stuff you can do with gathering test data from like TestStand. You know, that's these are the next things I want to explore with SystemLink. I really just got started on SystemLink about 1.5 years ago, so I have a lot to learn. I got a long ways to go. I started with deployment, and then I thought, well, why can't I deploy dev systems too? And so then I did that, and now I'm going to get into test data collection and things like that, and dashboards. SystemLink, from what I understand from a NI field guy out here in Colorado, Tom Ferraro, is apparently a big part of NI's roadmap. So I'm planning to invest a lot of my time into it, and I hope it's not like NXG. I think those are all my slides.
We still have like 3 or 4 minutes.
Oh, good. Good. What else do you guys want to know about SystemLink? Dave Thompson?
Yeah. Thanks. I infer, I think you were implying that you run up your own SystemLink server. And when I played with SystemLink for some other part of it, the tags and data publishing some years ago, it looked like you could use NI servers, and then some of those features then cost more if you use NI servers. Do you know anything about that? Or
So I'm an alliance partner, and I get a lot of software as part of my my annual the software platform library that I pay for every year. So I don't know a lot about licensing fees. I don't know if anybody here from NI can answer that question. I'm sure there's some licensing fees.
Are you talking about licensing fees or just the SystemLink web? The fees go with it, but it's really a question of can you use NI servers rather than running your own, putting up your own. So
Oh, well, that's probably SystemLink Cloud.
SystemLink Cloud or SystemLink
That's a
web, yeah.
It's slightly different. In fact, is Petter here? There's Petter, right? Petter uses SystemLink Cloud, and it seems to be a subset of capability from SystemLink Server. Like there's not quite as much there, but it's very similar. Petter, do you want to chime in on that?
I guess NI is moving. Hello. I guess NI is moving the direction of moving the prem version over to the cloud, but I don't know what the priority is. Pretty slow progress, I would say, on that. But more or less what you can do is you can gather and send data from your embedded systems or whatever and publish them and share dashboards. And I think NI is working on Workspaces, because that's a big thing right now. You can't really more than share a dashboard, and it's hard to control who can see what and such things. But I think you guys have that under the hood, and it's coming up with Workspaces. But there is no notifications yet, no alarms and such things, but all those things are there. So you could have a whole bunch of systems, different workspaces, different clients, and do that thing. And also think that there is a dashboard builder in there, but I don't know if NI is doing much more with that. I think they want us to use the web module to build your own interfaces from scratch, kind of. Yeah. But someone else from NI can talk about that. I think from the university side, if you are on an SSP, I think it's called, then you have SystemLink Cloud. Otherwise, you have to buy that, separate that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I haven't covered here. The dashboards, you can go make your own custom dashboards, and that can be per workspace, per project, Really what I wanted to demonstrate today was, deployments. And the dev environment was just a little bonus that I kind of ran across. I just thought, why not? Why couldn't you do that, right? And and that's why I asked you about the silent installer, because that's almost the same thing. That's half that solution. It's like, hey, replicate my dev environment. I just added in the Git stuff, and that gets a developer onboarded really quickly.
Very cool. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.